rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. And I'm sorry I'm a little discombobulated here because I wasn't paying attention. I actually had something short, very, very short and quick pop up, and I was in a hurry to try and grab it so I could incorporate it into the show because something just happened just moments ago, and it happened to fit with the subject that I'm going to talk about tonight. But I think I have everything where I want it to be. Let's see. Get this over here. And yeah, I don't care about them. All right, so let's go ahead and get everything started tonight. Starting off with those of you who are of a mind, please stand and take your hat off, put your hand over your heart, and join our very own Buddy Weiser from Rumble in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
And I thank you very much for that, Buddy. Buddy Weiser, very, very long-time listener, faithful whiskey warrior, P1 from way back in the day. I owe him a lot of a lot, believe me. Okay, so, and by the way, if you want to send me your audio of you saying the Pledge of Allegiance, you want me to put it in the rotation, send it to me at fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And you can just send that in, and I'll be good to go. I'll get it figured out, and of course, if something happens, I'll let you know otherwise. All right, tonight's headline sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback, a leather-bound U.S. Constitution, I'll put it up in front of my face so that you can actually see it. My background kind of blends it in. You can head off to constitution.americanperspective.online. This thing is fantastic. It has a 100-year warranty against material defects and workmanship defects. It has 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather that surrounds it. inside the pages are tear and water resistant, as well as check out that binding. It is actual thread stitched all the way through the leather. It is fantastic, buddy tested. That, like I told you, Buddy Weiser, man, let me tell you, buddy tested, buddy approved. Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior, of course, has verified the contents inside, will let you pass your civics exam for your civics badge in Scouts. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, make sure you check out the Institute on the Constitution for all of their other information that's available. And of course, I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. They have a great thing going on there. I'm just going to tell you. All right. So I understand that we have a very special birthday out in the Whiskey Warrior land. Young man by the name of Sean. You've heard him recite the Pledge of Allegiance on this show a couple times. And so he is 26 today. I am going to send out a special happy birthday. And I want to do it in the beginning of the show rather than toward the end because of the fact that his mom is going to have to play it for him later. But here we go. So Sean, this is for you. Happy birthday, my friend. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sean. Happy birthday to you. And many more. All right, happy birthday, Sean. I hope you have a wonderful day. So let's get into it here, folks. Let's get into the process. So, a couple of things I want to catch up on from last night's show. Actually, I talked about a couple of things, and I want to make sure that you guys see that, hey, I'm not completely off my rocker here when I say some stuff. For an example, discombobulated. But yesterday I was talking about how the electric vehicles and the green energy and all of that stuff, how we have all kinds of problems with the transmission lines and all of that if everybody is to go to EVs. Well, this article came out and it just supports exactly what I said. So here in Just the News, researchers apparently have discovered or figured out that California has to spend possibly up to $20 billion, that's billion with a B, on grid upgrades if it wants to go completely to electric vehicles. They are estimating the cost for upgrading all of the transmission lines to be able to handle the capacity for all those electric vehicles to cost between 6 and 20 billion, or roughly about 10 to 40% of the current transmission system that they have in place. And so this is according to a new Berkeley study. So it's not even like a right-wing study. This is a left-wing Berkeley. Hello, UC Berkeley. Their study on this figure, of course, does not include grid stress from other electrification efforts where they're moving away from gas appliances. And that, of course, that cost could go up higher. So the only thing they did is they just looked at the capacity for an overloaded EV charging demand. That's their quote, not mine. The study's author estimates that by 2035, 50% of the feeder transmission lines will be overloaded, a figure that will grow to 67% by 2045. They say the cost for upgrading, and again, just for electric vehicles, could be between 6 to 20 billion. And authors are saying that additional infrastructure cost drives the electricity price up. Remember how I was telling you how all of those all of those utilities had been applying for rate increases. Well, here's part of where that comes from. And so they hypothesize, or the report's authors hypothesize, the growth of total electricity consumption drives the rate down, which will lead to a net impact of a rate reduction eventually. But of course, they have to get through those capital costs first. And of course, they forget how the electricity is made, just kind of mimicking Bonnie over here on Rumble. He says they forget how electricity is made. That's true. All right. Quick update on those wonderful young men that I told you about in Highlighting America. If you haven't seen the broadcast last night, that is the very last segment that I did, and it is a fantastic story. Well, these young frat gentlemen got together and held up the U.S. flag as it was attempting to be replaced on the flagpole by protesters at the University of North Carolina's, I can't remember right off the top of my head which campus, but one of them, and Chapel Hill. That's what it was, I think, Chapel Hill. And so what these gentlemen did is they stood there, they got water sprayed on them. A couple of people got hit with rocks and other objects and things like that, but they held the flag up because they did not want it to touch the ground until the police came and got the flag put back up for the second time that day. Not the first, but the second. And so somebody went and created a GoFundMe account. John Noonan organized the fundraiser on behalf of these nice young gentlemen. And they had a goal of $450,000. They've hit it. In fact, let me refresh the page and see if it's gone up. It sure has. It's gone up to $480,472. The highest donation was a person by the name of John Clark, who donated just over 10 grand by himself. Now, they're still accepting donations, so I put the link in the description of the video, so you can go and grab that and put it in your browser, and you'll be able to go there, or you can just go to GoFundMe.com and search for Phi Kappa Phi, and I'm sure it'll pop right up in right away. Now, they did post an update to this, and apparently what they are going to do is they're going to take that money, and they're also in contact with other fraternities who were there as well, helping to hold up that flag, including Phi Epsilon Pi and others, in addition to Pi Kappa Psi and Pi Kappa Phi. And, whoever else, all of the other Greek members of the organization that helped hold that up, and they're going to decide apparently what they're going to do with that money. So I thought that was, I'd give you guys an update and let you know that, yes, I did. I'm pretty sure I put the GoFundMe in the show notes, the description of the video. So you can head over to rumble.com or YouTube, or I think Facebook also will carry it with them as well. Okay, so let's get into some things. Speaking about these protests, Dems are worried about the college protests, but they're not worried about the college protests for the destruction that they're doing or anything else. The report is that they're afraid that it's going to galvanize Americans to vote for Trump. They don't give a crap whether or not the institutions are being vandalized. And believe me, when you take a look at things like UCLA got cleared out earlier this morning, and the junk and trash and everything else that was left after they arrested several of the protesters and got the rest of them to disperse, you can't believe the garbage and the crap that was left behind. It was, save the planet and, protest for pro-Palestinians, but junk everything, throw garbage down and whatever else. There is no save the planet there in their mind. Democrats, according to this Daily Wire piece, Democrats in Washington are reportedly panicking because of fear that the pro Hamas protests raging on college campuses across the country will galvanize the American public to vote for Republicans. One House Democrat told Axios, which is a left-wing organization, the longer they continue and the worse that they get, the worse it's going to be for the election overall, adding that the protests are bringing out the public's most conservative side. Prior to a closed-door caucus meeting of House Democrats on Tuesday, many people are talking about the chaos at campuses, and the Democrat admitted many people are super frustrated and concerned. Folks, the left doesn't understand American patriotism. They don't understand our presumption and our dedication to our longstanding allies and our longstanding adherence to the idea of right and wrong. What happened on October 7th was literally wrong. And there is absolutely, over 70% of the American people, when they're polled, are, back Israel going in and getting rid of Hamas. They actually back that. And Democrats have no freaking idea what they're even talking about with regards to that. So yeah, this is nothing unusual for anybody with half a brain cell who understands this, but this is just yet another thing that Democrats are doing that is, crushing, killing, hurting, whatever, their chances in November. In fact, I see posts on X all the time where they are talking about how Biden has, gone up in the polls, or Biden's doing this, Biden's doing that. And it's no, it went and got jeez. Yeah. Anyway, so these are all things that are starting to turn on the Dems. And so we're going to have to, again, no victory laps yet, folks. No victory laps. We can't take it until after we take back the House, the Senate, and the presidency, all in November of 2024, because we all have a opportunity, all three. We have an opportunity to take all of it back, the entire thing. And so as long as the Dems keep doing this, I mean, we can act like Sun Tzu and just don't get in their way. Let them crush themselves. Further evidence of this, of course, is that the whole Trump trial in New York, which I've got a little something on that here in just a minute. But data is showing, through polling, data is showing that Americans are more likely to vote for Trump now than before. Mainly just because of the fact that a lot of Americans believe that this whole thing is essentially lawfare and attempting to try and keep Trump from becoming president again, which we all know it is. Speaking about that, just really quickly on that, this came out also right before I came online. And this is in the Epic Times. Stormy Daniels' lawyer apparently denies the payment was hush money in the Trump trial. So remember how I was talking a couple episodes ago how the National Enquirer editor, publisher, whatever, was saying that he had done, getting paid. He had picked up stories and then got paid to kill them. And the Bragg attorneys, the New York attorneys, prosecutors were trying to make it sound like this was something that was unusual, that Trump had never, Trump was the first one that this had happened. And once the defense got him on the stand, they essentially made him, got him to say that, no, this isn't the only time I've done it. I've done it for a whole bunch of other celebrities as well. And how that kind of scenario was essentially kind of a stab in the prosecution's case. Well, this is even worse because the lawyer who was involved in the negotiations pushed back on prosecutors today and basically said that. And this guy who was involved in the negotiations for the agreements between President Trump and two women claims that it was a push back on the claim that it was a hush money payment. Keith Davidson, who negotiated agreements related to adult performer Stephanie Clifford, who goes by the stage name of Stormy Daniels, and model Karen McDougal, disputed Manhattan prosecutor Joshua Steinglass's language. It wasn't a payout. This is his quote. It wasn't a payout. It wasn't hush money. It was consideration in a civil settlement. Mr. Davidson, who was called as a witness, said on Thursday, Mr. Steinglass asked, would you use the phrase hush money to describe the money that was paid to your client by Donald Trump? And Keith Davidson responded back, I would never use that word. Steinglass asked him what word he would use instead, and of course he said consideration. And he adding that the consideration was like a contract in which someone pays to mow their lawn. Oh my gosh. So again, this whole thing in New York City, hush money, which it's not a hush money. It was a non-disclosure agreement. But anyway, so they continued to hit him up about extortion law and so on and so forth. And Mr. Davidson, who negotiated the payments, basically was asked, you were pretty well versed in coming right up to the line without committing extortion, right? And Mr. Davidson replied, I had familiarized myself with the law. So basically, yeah, this case is starting to fall apart. Now, that being said, don't get me wrong, this is a situation where the jury is, a New York City jury, and so therefore they already have a propensity to be against Trump for whatever reason. But the thing about it is that they even went so far as, let's see, where is it? I just saw it just a minute ago. That's the gag order stuff. Where is this? So this same guy, Davidson, I'll just take it, just talk to you about it anyway. So Davidson also claimed as well that he was unfamiliar with any of the Trump organization's record-keeping practices. And he even said that he never met President Trump, and he had never been in the same room with him until he was in the room to testify. He also said that all of his transactions were through Michael Cohen. Now, for those that don't remember, Michael Cohen is the disgraced attorney, but apparently, and former lawyer for President Trump. But also it was claimed and verified and backed up, by the way, by Michael Cohen, that no, Michael Cohen paid the money ahead of time and did it not as a transactional nature. He just went ahead and paid it out of his own pocket first, and then Trump paid him for legal fees, which this is part of the reason why they're having such a heartache about this, is that Trump is actually removed from this. So, yeah. So anyway, it's just like everything else, it's starting to fall apart, for sure. And so this is going to be very, very interesting as time goes on. But again, not going to count my chickens before they're hatched, because I don't trust this New York City jury at all. All right. So let me go back here. Hey, you see this fantastic shirt that I'm wearing, and all of the shirts that I wear. This one happens to be the Mount Rushmore shirt. I showed you guys this, I think it was yesterday, or maybe the day before. But anyway, this shirt comes from this wonderful place. It's called theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. And I'm going to tell you, here it is right here. Oh, yeah, you can sign up for free shipping. They have free shipping on orders of $75 or more. And I have a special coupon that you can go and get. You can go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and you can pick up a $5 off coupon for your order. They have made in the USA shirts. They have other shirts. They've got t-shirts, tank tops. I think they have tank tops. But anyway, they have some patriotic spirit gear for both the ladies and the men, as well as kids. They've got golf shirts. They've got patriotic accessories. They have hats and ties and socks and all kinds of stuff. Go and check it out. It's 100% veteran owned, and they appreciate America and Americans. Go to theflagshirt.com, and once you are there and selected all your stuff, make sure you grab that coupon code at flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get you the $5 off, and enter that in the checkout at the promo code box, and you'll get that $5 off. Go to theflagshirt.com and get patriotized. All right. So, let's go back. So, you know how people are, well, of course, all of these protesters and stuff are saying that, Israel is committing genocide, and by going into the Gaza Strip and going after after all the Palestinians, and the Palestinians need to be free, and they need a separate state, and all these other things, which, by the way, Trump did come out and go on record by saying a two-state solution is likely not possible, which I'm glad that he did, because it really isn't possible. But that being said, the Hamas leader is trying to encourage obviously, because this is what they do, but they're trying to encourage the killing of hostages in the name of getting him, in terms of the IDF, or the Israeli Defense Forces, going after him. So one of the sticking points in terms of any kind of a ceasefire has always been the release of the hostages. And for those that aren't keeping score or count, the Hamas has refused any kind of a ceasefire because of the fact, for the most part, because of the fact that it includes handing over the hostages first. And they have literally been, refusing to take on any kind of a ceasefire. My understanding is even the last one that Antony Blinken went over to try and encourage Hamas to take. Hamas is not doing it. They're not doing it. And here could very well be part of the reason why. So this from the Daily Wire: Hamas leader is using at least 15 hostages as human shields, according to a report. Anyway, I don't know. Sinwar, the Hamas terrorist leader who was the mastermind behind October 7th, is hiding behind at least 15 hostages, according to both American and Israeli officials. This was in the New York Times. And it's not just like American and Israelis. It's coming through some Arab countries as well. So as the U.S., Israel, and Egypt are pushing Hamas to release the remaining hostages, which includes as many as 6 Americans, funny we don't hear Biden saying anything about those folks, Sinwar is negotiating behind a human shield made up of the very people that the Israeli forces are trying to rescue, officials said. The Times cited people briefed on the negotiations between Hamas and Israel, who have blamed Sinwar for preventing a deal from being made that would release the hostages. And the reason why is because of the fact that he is negotiating. Here's what he says. He's negotiating from his hiding space deep in the tunnels below Gaza, and is adding that his human shields of hostages are preventing Israel from assassinating him. Yeah, no kidding. Former U.S. Army Vice Chief of Staff General Jack Keane also told Sky News that Sinwar could have as many as 20. surrounding him and his family. He said, my sources tell me Sinwar, who is the #1 leader in Gaza of the Hamas organization, has 15 to 20 hostages protecting him and his family. So, in other words, that whole genocide thing, that whole idea that Israel, is looking to just eliminate the Palestinians in Gaza and commit genocide and blah, blah, blah. I hate to tell you this, but, well, no, I don't hate to tell you this. Frankly, I don't hate to tell you this because of the fact that Israel has the only air superiority versus the Hamas at all. Hamas doesn't have any airplanes. They don't have any air force at all. And so if Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could have just dropped bombs and flattened Gaza without any problem, without any resistance, without any kind of pushback from Hamas. And why anybody even thinks Israel has gone through so much effort to prevent the killing of Palestinian civilians as much as possible, as much as anyone could attest to in any kind of armed conflict. They have done as much work as they can by alerting people ahead of time, by giving up their plans and dates and when they're going to attack and so on and so forth. And here, this guy, who is supposed to be like a major leader of Hamas, is hiding behind hostages and won't even give them up because he believes, rightly so, that they are protecting him from being assassinated or captured or any other thing. Well, I mean, let's never mind the fact that he should be wiped off the face of the earth. But beyond that, that's my humble opinion. Okay, my humble opinion. But beyond that, yeah, this is wild. This is totally wild. So the one sticking point, the reason why this one sticking point is not being taken care of in terms of a ceasefire. They probably could have had a ceasefire a long time ago. But anyway. All right. I wanted to talk briefly, because this kind of leads into where I am going with tonight's main topic, which has to deal with the subversion of the West and the subversion of America. And, let's not sugarcoat it here because all of this is true. There are places within the world, there's even places within the U.S. that would love to see the U.S. come down because they don't believe as we do. They don't believe in the Western culture. They believe in whatever their own terrorist style of ideology actually is. And they want to see the destruction of the West. Well, we actually had, I don't know if anybody knows this, but back in 1984, we actually had a person who described and talked about the exact tactics that we have been seeing since then, and actually before then, by a defector of none other than the USSR, or the Soviet Union. His name is Yuri Bezmenov. For those that may not know what he looks like, he's the gentleman on the right in the tie, in the dark suit and tie here. And I would highly encourage, I've actually got the link to this video in the description of the show notes tonight, but I would highly encourage people to go and listen to this broadcast or listen to this, this interview. Now, the video that I'm showing you right here and the link that I provided was only a part of the interview. I was actually lucky enough to grab the entire interview. It was like a 15 or 20-minute interview, and I was lucky enough to grab the entire interview. And that interview brought out some really interesting things. And in it, he described literally 4 steps that the KGB would be using in order to subvert their enemy, in this case, America, in particular. Well, if you get the opportunity to listen to even just this short little clip that's here, it's about 6.5 minutes long, or 6 minutes, 50 seconds, whatever it is, here on YouTube, because the full interview that I searched up originally has been taken down. Okay, it's gone. Then that video no longer exists. But this video here, shortens it and only shows, I think, just the most pertinent parts of it. But in the video, he describes, and this is where this article comes from here in the Federalist. The Federalist title is "Communist Defectors Warn About 4 Stages of Subversion, and America is on the Last One." It's by Scott Powell. And it's not just Yuri Bezmenov, too, even though Yuri Bezmenov actually outlined this. But there's another person who is also a Chinese defector immigrant who is recent here, known as G. Van Fleet. And, of course, the whole communism in both China and the Soviet Union is here in the U.S. now, and we're seeing a lot of it on our university campuses. But the 4-step plan basically breaks down into these 4 parts. 1 is demoralization, 2 is disorientation, 3 is a crisis, and 4 is normalization. Now, G. Van Fleet explains in his book, Mao's America, how Mao's destruction of what he calls the 4 olds, which are old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. And that is how, in terms of Mao's approach, is how the end of freedom here in America will occur if it's not stopped. Now, here's the thing, is the original Soviet plan, the original demoralization, disorientation, crisis, and normalization has been going on for years. In fact, Yuri Bezmenov describes each one of these 4 steps. But the first one, demoralization, can actually take generations in order to implement. The first stage in Bezmenov's analysis can last a minimum of a generation or more. One of its main thrusts is to determine is to undermine the Judeo-Christian beliefs, customs, habits, and traditions that have been foundational to America. And that, of course, parallels the 4 olds that Mao talked about in China and destroyed in China. Another target for demoralization is the family, which communists want to replace with the state. G. Van Fleet points out that just as the Chinese Cultural Revolution turned children against their parents, American families are now under increasing attack. Government schools, medical establishment, popular culture, which all now support things like the transgender movement, are increasingly turning children against their parents. A third demoralization strategy is for breaking people's loyalty and love for their country by rewriting history, denigrating the founders and national heroes, and destroying historic monuments. Again, these are part of the 4 olds. So now all of that is part of demoralization. Okay? All of that is demoralization. Now the disorientation part comes in, and this is the second stage, according to Bezmenov, and it builds on the demoralization to advance society's disorientation, a condition where the masses feel bewildered and helpless. Well, what do you think COVID-19 did for everybody? Caused a lot of disorientation. We had a lot of people who submitted to the government controlling everything. When they mandated masks, social distancing, quarantines, lockdowns, the abandonment of tried and true medical practices of preventative and therapeutic treatments, such as, the ivermectin, which had been around for decades and was very effective. in a lot of different cases. Things like using, hydroxychloroquine as well was another one that was tossed aside. Another important part of disorientation happened early after the death of George Floyd. Assertions of systemic racism in law enforcement triggered rioting, looting, and destruction of several billions of dollars worth of property, along with the tearing down of historical statues and memorials in many cities. And of course, Americans became further disoriented when they realized the government authorities were unable or unwilling to do anything about the destruction in big cities across America. What do you think happened with the Chaz Chop? The cops just let it go. And even the governor was like, I don't know what the heck's going on there. Governor Inslee of Washington just didn't even care. There were few arrests during that time, while more than 2,000 police officers were injured. Yeah, disorientation may have reached its peak when the cities with the most lawlessness, Minneapolis, Seattle, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, initiated efforts to defund law enforcement. Following disorientation is the crisis stage. And guess what? Our crisis stage happened in November of 2020 with all of the election interference and everything else. Democrat operatives exploited the fear factor of COVID-19 in the summer months of 2020. And remember that? Remember when it was bad for churches to get together and congregate and pray, but yet riots were allowed because they had, no bearing on whether or not somebody was actually going to get COVID? Remember that? And then they went to almost every swing state. These are the Democrats. To change the voting rules to accommodate expansions on mail-in ballots, drop boxes, and extended vote tally deadlines. All of which are ripe and open for things like voter fraud. Then you have election irregularity was deepened by the massive media and social media censorship and cancellation campaigns that began well before November 3rd. Homeland Security Division called CISA, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, collaborated with Stanford University-based non-governmental organization in Election Integrity Partnership, EIP, that suppressed all the information that would help Trump, like the Hunter Biden laptop. And they, in turn, EIP launched the campaign to prevent the public from challenging any of the voting irregularities. And even talking about it on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Pinterest, etc. They got them to modify their terms of service to incorporate language about delegitimization. EIP then exerted pressure on all the social media companies to adhere to their customer service policies and censor, cancel, or deplatform any content that contained delegitimized narratives. And again, the media treatment of the Hunter Biden laptop story, along with the intelligence community covering up for that, which realistically, I think, again, would have swung the election more heavily than the individual states would. The whole thing in terms of the 51 former intelligence officials signing the letter, publishing it in the New York Times, Washington Post, stating that it had all the classic earmarks of Russian disinformation. Well, the target, according to this, and keep in mind, the 4 stages of that we are talking about are fluid. So demoralization and disorientation can continue while in the crisis stage. And we're seeing that right now with the lawfare against Donald Trump. I mean, how many of you feel, honestly, how many of you feel like this is, you're living in a Twilight Zone kind of world? For those of you that may not be old enough, Twilight Zone was a television show early on that was in black and white that took humans and people and put them in like very odd situations, and you had things of strange things would be happening to these people, things that normally wouldn't be happening. How many of you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone right now because of the fact that you are sitting here and thinking, oh my gosh, how is it possible that you can have all these rioters who went in through the summer of love in 2020 and that are going through right now at these universities, and they're likely only going to get a slap on the wrist rather than the same incarceration that's been going on January 6th for all the January 6th participants who have done much less than any of those in 2020. And by the way, the target's not just Trump and his supporters, but also us. We're now seeing large parts of the justice system resemble that of a banana republic. With equal justice under the law and respect for the Constitution being mocked, which Biden does every single day, okay? The message that's being sent out is this is not the America you know. It's a new world that you have entered, so get used to it. And that essentially is where normalization comes in. This whole idea of like the whole Title IX and the idea of men and women, you know, men and women's sports, and men and women don't need separate spaces, and that, you know, you can be whatever you want to be, however you feel, all of these kinds of things, along with the whole idea that being white is bad and being any other person of color is great, and that you are a victim, and all of these other things are all part and parcel of this grand stage of the fourth and final part of Bezmenov's KGB plan to subvert the enemy. We've got to get used to the fact that our borders don't exist. We need to get used to the fact that we aren't going to always get the information, that the mainstream media is just going to continually lie to us, so it becomes normal for us to do that. The fact that we should just become accustomed to the fact that elections are always going to be rigged. We need to accept the fact that you can't say certain things in the public sphere. And we acquiesce to the rewriting of history, like, for an example, which this one I pick on all the time, the fact that our government was not founded on Judeo-Christian principles. It was. But yet the left keeps pushing that it wasn't, that our founding fathers didn't believe in God, which is a bunch of horse crap. And I've said it on this program multiple times. All of this is all part of what Yuri Bezmenov was trying to tell us about back in 1984. We're in the normalization phase. It's almost done, folks. It's almost done. They have almost completed this. And this is part of the reason why I'm telling you 2024 is going to be the vote of our lifetime. We have got to reverse this course. We have got to get us back on track. We have got to get us back on the proper course of where America was supposed to be. By the way, toward that end, while this sounds wonderful, I'm not exactly sure, because when you read into this, this is another veiled attack against Christianity. H.R. 6090 was just passed in the House. Now, some might say, what is H.R. 6090? Well, it's colloquially called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. That's what you may know it as in the news media. Well, here's the thing. It sounds great. Anti-Semitism. We should all be against anti-Semitism. We should all be against it. That's true. But here's part of the problem. In part of what they define as a part of this act, what they're quote unquote defining as anti-Semitism, is being referred to by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, known as the IHRA in the Act. And it's under their working definition of anti-Semitism. And there's one problem with the IHRA. This is part of the IHRA's list. You can check this out online, holocaustremembrance.com, and go to their resources page and working definition of anti-Semitism. But here's one of the examples that they are talking about, which again is directly against Christians. Right here. It says an example of anti-Semitism is using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. For example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. Now here's the thing. Well, I don't have any animosity toward an Israeli or toward a Jew at all. But the fact that they are using this to say claims of the Jews killing Jesus, when in the Bible itself it describes how Pontius Pilate gave the Jews the opportunity to save Jesus's life, and they didn't do it, which ultimately resulted in Pontius Pilate giving Jesus the death sentence, hanging on the cross as a part of the punishment. But apparently, according to the Holocaust Remembrance site, you can't say that anymore. That's a form of anti-Semitism, even though that is exactly what is in the New Testament as a part of Jesus being judged by Pontius Pilate and sentenced to hanging on the cross. That's all part of it. This is part of the reason why Matt Gaetz, who called this out, by the way, said that he wouldn't vote for it. That he wouldn't vote for 6090. But it went ahead and passed anyway, because I'm sure that the Democrats all just jumped right on this. Even though they won't even condemn their own members like Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, and I'm trying to think of some of the others, but the squad members for their own anti-Semitism, especially Rashida Tlaib, come to think about it. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib for their anti-Semitism. They won't even call them out for it. But here they passed this law, which is, again, in my mind, I mean, you know, it's a direct attack against Christianity with this definition here as a part of it. Again, I don't hold any animosity toward any Jew or any Israeli. I don't hold any animosity toward them, but to sit there and say that a claim, which it isn't a claim, it is in the New Testament, it's written that way. We are looking at the destruction and the four pillars or the four steps of the destruction of our country, and we're honestly allowing it to happen. That's part of the reason why I'm here. The four stages of communist subversion. I'm sorry, those are the four stages. But that's part of the reason why I'm here. I am here to help people to understand what a great country this is and how wonderful our form of freedom and liberty and the republic for which this country was founded upon, the Constitution and all the rest. This is part of the reason why I show up in American gear. This is why I called it American Perspective. We all need to understand that once this place, as Ronald Reagan once said, once this place goes away, the lighthouse for freedom and liberty for the entire world is extinguished. We lose here. There is nowhere else for anyone to go to learn and to understand what it's like to live free and have all the opportunities that are abounded right in front of you, for you to only have to work hard to take advantage of those opportunities and make more of yourself and your children and your children's children, all here. Right here in this great land that we call America. And as of right now, we are watching. And if you stand on the sidelines and say nothing and do nothing, that is all that needs to happen for evil to triumph, is for good men and women to do nothing. And if America falls, believe me, the rest of the world will feel that impact. Look at what's happening today. Look at what's happening today. We have a weak leader. And what's happened? The entire world has pretty much erupted into strife, including within our own borders. And Biden is looking to even bring more people here who hate America, who want America to fall. That is the sad part, and we need to pay attention to this. They've tried to tell us, these two particular individuals and just about anybody who has left a totalitarian regime has all been saying, I mean, I've talked about this before. People who have left North Korea say the same thing. People who have left China and Russia, all three, are all saying the same thing, that America is being subjected to a overt attack. It's not even hidden. In fact, that's what Yuri Bezmenov was saying. It doesn't even have to be hidden. It's an overt attack against us and our system and way of life. And we need to fight it. We need to fight back, folks. The way that we fight back, we start with the voting. We got to make sure that we get as many people as we can who are constitutional, conservative Americans voted into office. And we need to do it immediately, starting in 2024. All right, folks, thank you all for coming. I had a few other things here that I may carry over to tomorrow. I'll have to kind of think about that. But thank you all for coming. If you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, sign up for an account. It's free. And make sure you search out the American Perspective channel and make sure to follow so that you know every time I go live and broadcast. Also, too, if you're already signed in over there, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button, because that helps Rumble to to essentially put me, hopefully someday, in the editor's pages or bring it up further on the charts. I do appreciate all your time. We will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.